Well, hello there everybody, welcome back to my room. My name's Mikey and it's time for another tutorial. Okay, this time we're going to be talking about how to gender bend or gender swap a character. Now, some of you guys asked for this before, and then somebody recently asked for it in the last Draw of Mikey episode that we had just a short while back. So thank you very much for your suggestions. Do get in the comments below about what you want to see next. But I was kind of having a think about it because sometimes I will gender swap a character and do it for the Sexy Anime Saturday series, and I don't really think about it. So it's been quite interesting to actually put down how do I actually kind of structure the process. It turns out I don't. It's a real mishmash. But I have come up with a few points that you don't have to strictly follow, but I do strongly recommend you bear in mind because it's going to help your thought process when you turn, say, a male character into a female or the other way around. So really, the first main point, it's going to be a moment before we get to the paper, is look at the character you're actually going to be copying. So I thought I'd just pick Sasuke Uchiha from Naruto Shippuden, in fact, because he's a bit cooler there, and kind of try to work with that, seeing as I haven't done that before. I have had a think about it before I made this video, otherwise there'd be about an hour of me umming and ahhing over different details. So I've got a rough idea about what I want, but I'm going to just talk about how we get there. So, firstly, grab yourself loads of reference images of the original character you're going to be drawing. Hopefully on screen, there's some random Google search result image pictures of Sasuke that I've got slightly off screen, but I'm going to be using as a reference point. And what you need to do is just be really observant about it. What makes that character them, okay? So, looking at this kind of Uchiha Sasuke image, and it's from that period where Shippuden just really got rolling again, and Naruto and Sakura and Kakashi, and maybe like this other character, I forget his name, but he can like draw stuff and it comes to life. They all find him, and he's got this really roby, cool vibe. He doesn't appear interested at all in them. His power levels are so beyond that. He's almost dismissive of them, and he really, he's like the genius wunderkind ninja. So they're not on his level anymore, and he barely notices them as such. So I want to keep in my gender-bended character that sort of derision, that kind of low-down angle view, looking up at them that you see in a lot of images, that kind of reflects the fact that he's on a different level right now, doesn't really care. It's not going to be a really extreme action pose, because in this period, Sasuke didn't need to do that. You kind of find in a lot of anime and manga, when you get a really powerful character, they don't even need to move around so much. They just kind of stand there nonchalant, like nothing's really a problem. So I'm going to keep that in mind. I am going to start drawing away now, otherwise this will be for ages, this tutorial. And I'm going to get the rough framework in, talk about the clothes, the hair, the eyes, and kind of what I'm thinking. And then we'll drop into time-lapse to actually fully flesh out the character so that you guys have a fairly good idea of what I'm going on about. Now, again, I'm trying to make my construction lines really dark because I notice sometimes they don't come up super clear on the camera phone in other tutorials. So hopefully you guys can see this. Let's have a look. Lovely. Nice and clearly here. And I'm just drawing in a character shape. What I'm doing is not worrying about what's going to go on it. This is just for framework. I'm not worried about how Sasuke is going to look in this particular image as a female character. I'm worried about the pose, because I want this pose to reflect the character. I want it to be a low to high angle shot. I want it to be kind of a casual pose that sort of shows the bits that we've just been talking about. What makes Sasuke them? That sort of neutral sort of stance that's not really bothered because it's really supported by so many badass, like powerful techniques when push comes to shove. So I'm just kind of getting this in. Cheeky curve of the body. And you guys obviously can grab yourself a sheet of paper, follow along at home, whether you're gender bending your own character or you're just going to use this tutorial to basically make note of some pointers. And again, these aren't super strict rules. I had, because I do about 2 minutes of research before I make a video, these are always a bit ad hoc. I had a quick look on YouTube for how to gender swap characters and stuff. And I'm not bad-mouthing any other artists. I recommend it, but like have a look at everybody's. But I didn't really find anything that quite satisfied the thought process behind it. So if you guys know of any other YouTube artists who do have a useful tutorial on this, let me know. I'm not hating at all. I want to see if anybody else has got some thoughts on this topic, because I haven't quite found enough that I want. So again, if I just get some legs going down kind of off a page here and here, I'm just trying to get some hips and body shape. I'm really not talking too much about how I'm thinking about the shapes that build up this figure, the construction lines, because I have other tutorials that are dedicated to that, how to draw a torso, how to draw a body, how to draw a face, and so on. So that's not really what I'm about here. I just want to get this character framework down so that I can actually start to investigate other elements. I'm drawing a bit quickly, so this might not be perfect, so you do have to forgive me if so. But again, as long as I can get a rough idea of kind of what I want and where I want everything to be, hopefully we can put the character on top. I would have drawn this framework first and then just dived in and given you the pointers, but for the most part, you guys have always fed back to me that you kind of want me to start from scratch if we've got time to. So I'm quickly going to get an arm down here, circle for the joint, drops into a forearm, fins out about here. This hand is going to maybe just drop off just behind this thigh line, and then on this side I'm going to have an arm coming out a bit. Now notice the arms are low, they're still casual, they drop down, they're fairly relaxed, even if I'm going to have this character hold Sasuke's ninjato or sword or straight katana, however you understand the terminology. Let's get a hand's going to come here, so thumb will be there, then top of the hand will continue here, knuckle joint about there, and then it's going to kind of come up here and hold a sword out here, so maybe we'll get a bit of finger up this side. I'll consider exactly how this is going to work in just a moment. Okay, so what have I done? I've got a framework where I've got a casual pose. I don't want to perfectly copy the original character design because you're not really using your own artistic freedoms then to overexpress things. So get the personality across firstly. It's also going to come across in the sort of expression that we might end up having on the character. And when I'm talking about the visual themes that reinforce this, we'll also have a look at the clothing. And although the clothes don't have to be the same either, they have to have some of the same ideas. It certainly helps to. So we'll come on to that in just a moment. When it comes to the colour palette as well, do try to keep that similar because that's going to be a really strong visual cue for anybody who looks at your art. If you use the same colours on a character, it's really going to help people out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pop back to this face. Because it's a low up view, the features are kind of rolling up the head a little bit. So I'm just going to some eyes around about this level here. If I get something like this in, that's going to arc over the top and then be fairly flat on the bottom, because Sasuke is going to be looking sort of down at us a bit. So then we have some brow line that's kind of up here, and again a fairly neutral, almost disinterested brow line. Sasuke is not really known, especially when he's being in that period where he's trained by Orochimaru. He's not massive on the facial expressions. You know, he's a cool customer and just kind of observes and then does like super powerful techniques. So I'll get that vaguely around there, like so. We'll get a nose coming up about here, little nostril on that side, and then the mouth level is going to have to be round about here in this instance. And again, not impressed. Maybe open, maybe not. Maybe just touch open in this instance. Lovely. Okay, so I've roughly super lightly mapped the features on. I'm just going to pop cheeky pupil down here. Again, down here. There and there. And the reason I wanted to drop straight to this point, how's that showing? You can just about make it out. Let's go for a little bit of cheeky zoomy zoomy and then movie uppy. Lovely, and hopefully that's still in focus as well. Excellent. And what I wanted to say is that one thing that really should occur when you're doing a gender bent version of your character is the area around the eyes. You should be able to, as long as somebody knows their anime, say I'm drawing a character from this particular anime, and if you showed them just the area around the eyes of that character in your gender bended version, it should be similar enough that they can recognize at the core who that character is supposed to be. the eyes are often the focal point of any character design. It's often where people are going to look. So this is the bit where you do need to focus a lot of your attention. So the pupils themselves should be the same. Now, even if your pupils are a different shape, or they have that kind of taller female character eye look, that's absolutely fine. That's not my concern. But the actual pupils should be the same colours and have the same characteristics. Now, when we're drawing Sasuke, it's much easier for us because I can draw Sasuke with the basic first form of the Sharingan, this kind of weird eye pattern that they have. And that's going to be like a really strong visual cue. But if I wasn't, I would pretty much black out most of this eye because Sasuke's eyes are often shown as kind of just being black, very kind of dead and disinterested for the most part. So if I get that up here, and for those of you who are up to date with the manga, I've stopped reading Naruto at the end of Shippuden, so I haven't been reading that new stuff where they're all adults now, if only because I kind of looked at one episode and I saw Bolt and his weird lumpy haircut, and I just thought, oh god, I can't continue with this. I need to move on with my life. Really wasn't for me. As much as I love Naruto and grew up with it, like many a person did. So I'm getting in these eyebrows here, like so. Nice thin black strips they're probably going to end up being. I'm just reinforcing the nose here, here, and here. Now that I'm happy with where that's positioned, quite fortunate. Usually if I keep it rough, it's really weirdo placement. Come off okay. I don't jinx it. And a bit of lip for this character just there. Now, you'll notice, well, I haven't made the character over buxom like I do sometimes because a ninja's going to have more of an athlete's figure. And basically, Sasuke wasn't an extremely proportioned character at all, just a very coolly designed one. So, when we talk about this eye area again, let's just get this pupil in here. Obviously, when I finalize this image, that's when I'm going to really worry about making all the elements absolutely perfect. As you can imagine, we're probably going to have a cheeky bit of Sharingan going on around there and there. But we'll come back to that in just a moment. Let's just give this character an ear. Probably going to sit about there. So now that we've got like a face that we're kind of happy with, I sort of understand this kind of look in the middle, but it's a more feminized version. I've got some thick area of lash coming up and around here, so we know it's more of a female character. We can start to think about the hair. Now, an easy technique that people often fall into is that they will just draw the male version of the character's hair, and then just really randomly, just at the bottom, just make it really long down there. And that's kind of okay, because you can kind of go at Sasuke's hair. But it tends not to make for a convincing female haircut whatsoever. So don't be scared there, if you get this area right, to actually just think about the haircut from the point of view of the character story, from the kind of reinforcing elements of what makes this character them. So this Sasuke wears a loose clothing, he has slightly longer hair, it's all relaxed, and he doesn't really give a damn. I think a female Sasuke character would certainly have a very similar haircut around the top. It's going to spike down. But this character's been hanging around with Orochimaru a lot. I think they would grow their hair quite long in a similar fashion. And there'd be much less of a spiking around the top that you get from the reference image. And maybe just longer, straighter hair would flow off from the back. So, that being so, Sasuke letting his hair flow long flowing robes that he wears because he's kind of so cool like that, it falls into this idea of the character. You'll look at it, and as long as I keep the areas of hair that are around the facial features following a similar pattern around this zone here, it means that I can make the rest of it long, and you're still going to look at it and think it's kind of got a Sasuke element around it. So again, if we think about what I'm going on here, Sasuke hair at the front spikes down in a couple of ziggity-zaggity lines. So if we start the hairline up about here, I'm just going to pop down a couple of triangles to start to test out that feeling, that image. Here, here, and then kind of up and around where this hairline is for the character. That's a few sharp spikes come into play around about there. And that's where the hair then starts to come off for Sasuke. So if we come around this side as well, just going to pop maybe a cheeky thin strand there, and then start to come around here. There's going to be a spike that pops in here where the kind of wind blows it over, and then it's going to come down and off as well. So all I've done there is I've tried to keep a very similar visual style around the features, around the face. And that's going to really help us out, because now I can start to think, right, in this particular instance, I'm going to have the hair actually just coming up from here. And it's not going to be completely unkept, but it's going to be very loose, very natural and unbothered. So I'm actually going to let this hairline probably flow right off here, like so. And it's 3 years that Sasuke spent in training with Orochimaru, between the end of Naruto and the beginning of Naruto Shippuden. A bit like One Piece did a very similar thing. I think it went 2 days, 3 years, something like that, where they were going to meet up. Oh no, wait, 3 days, 2 years, something like that. Don't worry about what I'm saying. But basically a long time has passed. So Sasuke's hair is going to have grown very long as he's been training with his Devil Seal and secretly formulating his own powerful katana technique, which he's hidden from Orochimaru for the entire time, which I thought was very, very cool. So let's just get some hair shapes in. Again, I'm not going to explain really what I'm doing or how I'm designing the hair. We've got hair tutorials for that, just because I need to crack on. So again, here we go. Sasuke with some longer flowing hair. I think this comes up maybe just a touch too high off the top of the head, or maybe not too much. Comes down and around here. It's going to maybe have a strand that comes out, like so. But really the main matter is going to be flowing back, like this. So let's get parts of the hair off like that. Like so. And like such. Excellent. So now I can just have a couple bits of hair that might still come forward, just to accentuate some of the old Sasuke elements. He usually has 2 bangs or strands that come right down the side of the face and drop past the chin line. So I'll still have that in. And now that I've got this longer hair element, it's definitely a female element, and I'm just going to zoom back out ever so slightly so we can get back to most of the character. It means then, and if I just focus that, lovely, that I can pop just a couple of hair spikes up, just so that it accentuates the idea of it being Sasuke without coming away from a female character design. So I might have just a little pop of hair there, and then it's usually strand up there, maybe a couple of those. Not so many as Sasuke really has, but a couple to just get that idea over. That's how we're going to keep this whole gender going along. Now I'm just going to slightly, for the sake that it shows up clearly on the camera for you guys, slightly just come back and reinforce the lines of the hair around the features. So already I'm fairly happy, he says. I know it's no masterpiece, but I'm fairly happy with where these are. And I'm just going to get that in there. And then it's going to allow us then to think about the next kind of set of cool bits about this character. If we've got the face, the eyes, and the hair, we need to have a little chat about the clothes and the costume design. Because obviously women tend to wear differently styled clothes than male characters. And we're going to have to bear that in mind. So let's get that there. Reinforce those spikes. That one there. And then the hair coming off. Lovely. Fairly happy with that. So again, we've got the long flowing hair, not tied back, because I've seen a lot of gender swap versions of Sasuke where they basically just keep the same haircut as well, and then put like just a bunch at the back, and then just put a long flowing ponytail, which allows them to keep the exact same haircut at the front, but it doesn't really show a balanced thought process about the gender swapped version. And I'd encourage you to think about it as in, you're not just drawing a character, you're reimagining what's happened to that character in their story and how that's affected them. So I'm not just imagining what Sasuke would look like if he was just swapped as a girl. I'm thinking if Sasuke was a girl, undertaken by Orochimaru, how she would appear, what she would wear, even if she had the same thought process as a male version of Sasuke. So again, tying the hair back in a ponytail, that's what one of those ninja characters does, the one who summons all the weapons, who's in Team Rubbish that nobody cares about. And, you know, this is not a goody-goody character, okay? This is a dark character on a dark path. And it's going to follow more of those tropes, such as the long, flowing black hair. So have a really good think through, because imagining the story behind a character design as you're drawing it will help affect how you're stancing the character. It helps affect what expression you decide to give the character, and that will help to give it more value as far as I'm concerned. But I'm rabbiting on. It's just that I really enjoy gender swapping characters these days. So since I've started thinking about it, it's really kind of gotten to me. So let's talk about the clothes. In the reference image, we know Sasuke, he's got this really thick, heavy, ropey kind of waistband belt situation that a lot of Orochimaru's subordinates now have. So that's a very strong visual element I'm going to try to keep somewhere. And the robes are very casual. They're very open at the top. They're quite flowy. And there's usually some ninja armband, wristband stuff going on as well. So I might have to zoom out just a touch again, so I can keep the whole... Oh, too far. Let's zoom back in a little bit more. Sorry, I'm on a camera phone, so it's always difficult to get the settings right. Perfect. So I was having a think about this. And again, just to remind you guys, I've thought about this design quite a bit off camera. But I've had plenty of goes at trying to draw Sasuke's same uniform on a female character. And you know what? I didn't massively think the form fit appropriately a female character in the same way. But I do need to keep the same tropes, the same parts of the character design. So in terms of the sword, I'm already really happy with that. I like Sasuke's katana quite a lot. So I want this character to keep it. Seeing as we know we don't have to worry too much about design element there, I'm going to come straight back down here where I've been popping with his hand. I'm just going to flesh out this handle. There's no tsuba in Sasuke's katana, or guard as you might call it, basically, no cross guard. Because he's too skilled for that sort of thing. He's not going to rely on the katana. It's just another tool as far as he's concerned. He's not strictly a swordsman whatsoever. He's just a ninja with a sword if a sword is required for a situation. Mostly he likes to rely on his own attacks that come out of his chakra, and these things are more day-to-day backups. So I'll have that sword handle in there. That's fine, and I'll worry about that fuller design a little bit later. What I also know I really like is the armbands. These kind of, they're not quite gauntlets. They're more, appear to be like material that kind of come around here. Let's go about halfway down the forearm. And will work like so. Now, in the earlier versions, when they first come across Sasuke again after finding him with Orochimaru, I think it covers just the top edge of the hand as well. And I really like that because it's got a very ninja feel about it, because you can imagine there'll be some guard element here. I think in the slightly later versions where he's creating the Band of Hawk, which is just a really poor rip-off as far as I'm concerned of Taka no Dan from Guts. But let's not get into that. Then they just become armbands really, and the hands are completely free. But I do like it when it covers down a bit. So that's what I'm going to go for here and here. And again, we're going back to very light construction lines, because in the time lapse I'll turn this into something a bit more finalized, but it gives us an idea of what I'm talking about. And then I was thinking about this top. Sasuke's top, as you can see in the reference image, it's open, it's got a really big collar, and it's flowing and loose, and it shows loads of chest in the middle. The more I thought about it, and I wasn't quite getting the design to work, I realised that I just need to keep the elements that still tell you the same story. So instead, I'm going to go for a top that a girl might more wear. I'm going to go for an off-the-shoulder, basically, to some more or less degree. So if I imagine that maybe we're on the shoulder on this side, where we come in, we're going down, we're covering a boob just about here, but then we're going off the shoulder over on this side here. And that means that I can have plenty of flowing material come down still around this arm, quite loose, quite unencumbered, to around about there, and then come back in like so and like so, just tucking up there, fitting on that side. On this side I can do the same thing, but now it's got a kind of clothing pattern that you wouldn't be actually surprised at all to see a girl wearing. So I'm just going to kind of come up on this edge, just down on this side like so. Then we get to just bring it back on this side here. In terms of the top then, it means that I've got an off-center sort of zip line, so to speak, now that we're off the shoulder. I'm totally okay with that. It's going to just come back in here. Maybe drop towards the center. And then the way that this hangs again, because it's loose for me at least, is it's just going to drop off the breast on the right-hand side. Just hang down a bit. Just also hang around here. What I can do now as well is that I don't need to take it all the way down. Because this isn't a ninja, it's a kunoichi, or kunoichi, like a female ninja, basically. Maybe I'm going to let the top drop to about here, but then just loosely leave the stomach exposed as well. Just like that. I mean, I have a little think in the time-lapse bit exactly how I'm going to finish that off. You kind of get the idea that it's all a bit cash. It's not a big deal. And that's the point of Sasuke. So if we leave the stomach exposed, just to give it more of an effeminate vibe, it means we need to deal with that trope about the nice, big, strong, kind of ropey bit. Now, that I'm going to keep in pretty much the same place. I was thinking about putting it up or putting it down or just wrapping it around a leg, but it really doesn't quite work. You need to keep that bit at least because it's such a strong visual indicator from a distance. It's one of the stronger elements that you notice about this character. So I'm going to leave that area the same. You don't have to change everything, but you do need to change the bits or think about the bits that do have an effect on the character overall. So if I just kind of copy the shape that thing kind of follows, it's something like this. It's basically, I don't even know what it is. It's like a big kind of wrap that he's got around and it's tied together with this rope. I'm not going to be scared to put the rope lower. Instead of around the waist where it is for Sasuke, I'm going to put it around the hips for female Sasuke, because that lower area just has, again, a more of an effeminate vibe. It shows more tummy, and you can kind of imagine it being more of a girl's style of wearing it. These are still really thick ropes. It's a really cool design as well. I love how he does this. If there's something that I've always loved, it's the crazy, weird, different ninja designs that you get in Naruto, because my idea of ninjas before that anime was very traditional. Always wearing black or brown or dark colours, and not having any kind of personality. Ninjas being the human version of a tool to get a job done, essentially, with no sense of self-preservation if it gets in the way of the job. And then Naruto suddenly made them into colourful characters with all sorts of personalities and individualities. And at the time, that was really big news to me. I'd never even thought about it. I thought, wow, ninjas are actually super cool people as well. And then I got really into Naruto, and the world was never the same. So I'm just, again, putting these massive kind of, this big, is this like a slip knot or a sailor's knot? I'm not really sure. I'm going to just pop that in there and get the other one in there as well. It's up here, but then behind. Then you've got the two big bits of rope here. Now, what I've certainly done, unlike the main Sasuke characters, I've pushed this knot right round to the side so that it's over the hip. And what that does on a female character is it accentuates the hip line. So again, it's another thing where the female version is going to be worn in a female manner. It's going to push the point of it being a girl. So a hip line version of the knot around here on the side instead of right in the middle. Right in the centre, if I put it there, it would actually be a bit weird, and it would be a little bit phallic as well. So it's just not necessary in this sense. Let's get that rope coming up here. And then after that, it's nice and simple. There's a big part of the line here. On Sasuke, this shawl or this wrap drops really low. On the female version of the character, I'm going to make it much shorter and higher. And the only reason really why I'm doing that is because it gives us an opportunity to, instead of trousers, just give this character some, actually, let's drop it down there so we don't see any private parts, naughty. Gives us an opportunity to see this character as wearing maybe thigh highs or something like that. Ninja stockings or leggings. But, you know, really thick material ones, like some of the other female characters do. So like that there. On this side, just going to drop back in from there. You'll see a bit of it like so. And really, really roughly, we've kind of worked out what we've got. I might play around with this. I can stick a bit of a collar here if I wanted to, just again to cover that trope. But because it's off the shoulder, it means that the other edge would probably come off here. So I need to work out whether or not I want to follow these lines and submit to it, basically, for the final version when I kind of rough over the top. But overall, if I look through the camera phone, in this rough light work, we've kind of got the frame down. Oh, this tutorial again has been really long. Thank you very much for bearing with. I hope you found this bit useful. But just to cover through, what makes the character them? If you're going to gender swap a character, I want you to look at the character, get loads of sample images. What are the main things that makes them them? Not just visually, but their personality, their stance, who they are as a character. Do they care about other characters? Are they full of enthusiasm? Are they full of darkness? Keep those things. The visual elements. How do their eyes look? Even if you add more eyelashes, can you still recognise the eyes and this area of the face as being that particular character? In order to reinforce that, do try to keep the hair around the eyes similar-ish or following some similar points. If you look at my Vash for Stampede Sexy Anime Saturday time-lapse image, you'll notice that I gave that character a completely different haircut, but I kept a couple of the drops of hair over the eyes and with the glasses, very similar to they are on the male version, so that you still have that visual theme come through. After that, the clothing. It doesn't have to be strictly the same, but it has to be similar enough. The colours should be similar. Obviously, this isn't a colour picture, so no worries. And the theme of the clothing should be similar. So if the other gender version of your character wears lots of tight-fitting clothes, try to keep that. If they wear very loose-fitting clothes, try to keep that. The design doesn't have to be the same, but the overall impression and feel does have to be the same. And that's about it. So what I'm going to do is drop into a time-lapse, have a little bit of think more over this. I'm going to mull over it a little sec and put on the final lines, and then I'll see you very briefly at the end. Okay everybody, and there you are, our gender swapped version of our character. So do bear in mind, these are just pointers and tips that I realised that I tend to personally take into account. The eyes, the area around the eyes, including the hair. Try to actually imagine the life of this character as a female version, or if it's the other way around, as a male version, and how would their hair grow out? It wouldn't just be the exact same haircut plus a ponytail or something like that. It might be different. What kind of clothes and style would they wear? Would it actually be a little bit different, but kind of the same because of their gender sort of reversal? It's nice to have a think around that character and kind of build a bit of a backstory in your mind. It really helps you with your visual decisions you're going to make. We've obviously got the area of hair around the eyes. Try to keep that similar if you can. And if this was in colour, I would be using pretty much the same colour palette as well. So that other than this, it's still visually and at a very quick glance, still going to remind you, the viewer, of it being that original character. So I've not bothered blacking in the hair and blacking in the various bits. I'll do that digitally because it will just save me hours of pencil shading in. But hopefully you found this tutorial useful. The most important rule out of all these pointers is basically have fun, okay? These are just guidelines. Maybe you think completely differently about the process, in which case I would actually love to hear about it in the comments below. And if you guys know of any other good YouTube videos where people talk about gender bending their characters, let me know, because I really want to see how other people do this. This is literally just my own version of the process. Maybe there's a better version out there, so let me know. But I do hope this has been of use, guys. Do click subscribe if you're not subscribed. Welcome over to the channel. We do tutorials all the time and stuff and ting. But basically, as usual, peace and love, everybody. And I'll see you guys real soon. Bye-bye.